In this lesson, I'd like to show you how to create a union query. A union query allows you to combine two completely unrelated tables into one data set. The only requirement is that you have the same number of columns. The data types don't even have to match. When you create a union query, there is no traditional design view that you normally see with a select query. You have a datasheet view and you have an SQL view, so all of your manipulation must be done within the SQL view. To start this, I'm going to take a look at my suppliers table, and I see that I have 29 suppliers down here at the bottom. Also, if I move to design view of my suppliers table, I can see that I have all text fields in this table except for the last field, which happens to be a hyperlink, but we won't worry about that. Also, I want to take a look at my employees table. My employees table has 9 records inside of it, and if I move to design view here, I can see that I have a birth date and hire date, which are date and time fields, and I also have a reports to, which contains the ID number of an employee that is a managerial position for the employee in question. I'll start by locating the SQL code for the fields I'm interested in my employees table. To do this, I'll start in query design, and I will go ahead and pull up my employees table, and then I will bring in a few of these fields. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to combine the first name and the last name together as a calculated field in my first column. I will do this by just creating a field name up here called full name with a colon, and then I'm going to take the first name field, concatenate that with a space, and then concatenate that with the last name field. And if I run this, I end up with just the first name and last name. Next, I'll go ahead and pull in the hire date field. I'll pull in the city field, and I will also pull in that numerical field, which is called reports to. And when I run this, I can see my 4 fields. Now, although this looks like text, it's actually a lookup combo box that's on top of a numeric field. Inside of this table is a numeric field which contains an employee ID for the record that this current employee reports to. Andrew Fuller is the top dog. He's the chief, so he doesn't report to anybody, so his cell is blank. Now I'm going to move to SQL view. I'll right-click and choose SQL view, and you can see the SQL that's been written. I'll just set this aside, and I'm going to come up, create another query in design view for my suppliers table. So I'll click on suppliers, I'll click on close, and I'm going to bring down the contact name, which is the first name and the last name. I'll go ahead and bring in, say, the address field, and I'll bring in the city field, and I'm also going to bring in, say, the phone field. And when I run this, I can see my 4 fields out here. Now the address field is going to hook up with the hire date field from the other table, and notice that the first one from the employees is a date data type, and this is a text data type. Also from the employees table, the 4th column from the employees table is a numerical data type, and this one is just a text data type as well, but this won't cause us any problems. From here, just like before, I'll go out to my SQL view, and I can see the SQL view for my employees table, and now I can see the SQL view for my suppliers table. Next, I will come out, click on create, and I will create query in design view, and I'm going to just cancel out of this guy, and I'm going to move directly to the SQL view for this, and I'll delete whatever's out there. So here's how we start. I'm going to take my first query or the second, it doesn't matter what order they're in, and I will just right click and select and copy the text inside of the SQL for the first query. I will then come back and pull up my empty query. I will go ahead and paste this into my third query, and then down below that I'm going to go ahead and type in the word union, and I'll just press enter a few times so you can see this. Next, I'll come out to my second query, which was from suppliers. I will right click that SQL text, copy that, move back in here, and then paste this guy in here. So all I'm doing is taking the SQL from the first table, typing in union, and then pasting in the SQL from the second table. And when I run this, I can see that I've combined both tables together. If I look out here, I have 38 records, which is 29 from the suppliers table and the 9 records from the employees table. And if I go ahead and scroll through this, you can see the reports to field has the ID number from the employee they report to and the phone number from the supplier name. Also, if I look out here under the hire date field, I can see that I have the date field combined with the address field. Now, if I right click up here and look for a design view, I'm not going to see one. I have datasheet view and SQL view, but that's okay. I'm just going to come out here. I'm going to go ahead and click on the X button to close this, and when it asks to save changes, I'm going to say yes. And I'm just going to give this a name. I'm going to call this QRY. Call it whatever I want. I'm just going to call this Union, and I'll go ahead and click on OK. And I can come back and I could go ahead and close my two initial tables. I won't save changes. So now I've got this thing called Query Union, and if I come back out and I click on Design View to look at this, it just opens it up in SQL view, and you can see that it's been combined out here. And when I run this, of course, I get that same information I had before. But what I'm going to do is go back into SQL view. Actually, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and close this. I'm going to come out to actually make a table out of this. I want to take this whole thing and turn it into a physical table. I'll go create a brand new query, and from the list here, I'm going to choose Queries, and I'm going to find my Union query and click on Add. And then that will add the Union query out here. I'll go ahead and bring in all the fields by double-clicking the asterisk here. And now when I run this, I will see the result of my 4 fields, which is a combination of both my suppliers table and my employees table. I will go back to Design View, and then from here I'm going to choose Make Table, and I'll give this a name, and I'll just call this TBL Union. And I'll click OK. And when I run this, tells me I'm about to paste 38 rows in a new table. I'll say yes, and now I can just go ahead and close this down. I won't even save changes here. And now I've got TBL Union, which is a normal table out here. Everything is combined. And if I look out in Design View of this guy, you can see that what it's done is it's just taken the date field and the number field and turned these into text fields. It's easier to convert a number and a date into text than it is to convert text into a number. A lot easier. So that's why it goes ahead and does this. Now what I could do from here, if I'd like, is just come out here and insert a new row if I'd like, and I could just call this something like emp ID or whatever. I'll just give it some sort of an ID field, and I'm going to go ahead and choose an auto number data type for this guy. And then when I come back out and run this guy after saving it, you can see that actually it ended up at the bottom, but I have an employee ID out here, so I could go ahead and apply these if I'd like. Could even go back into Design View now, and in my employee ID field I could turn this just into a number data type if I'd like. And if I go back and look at this, everything is just the same as the way it was, and I've combined the two tables and assigned an employee ID field.